Hello, and welcome to Pisces Moon Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Kate Leonard, and I'm excited to explore the stars with you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the week of July 12th through July 18th. And how's everyone doing with this Mercury retrograde, huh? It's a doozy, but we get a little bit of a different Mercury this week, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Before we get into the astrology, let me just take a quick minute to say thank you all for being here. I know it's summer, it's the holiday weekend, everybody's hot. Oh my gosh, it's so hot. It's a lot. And so anytime you spend with me, with Pisces Moon Podcast, I'm just super grateful. Just know that. All right, let's get into it because I'll give you the quick version of a few different things that I want you to be aware of this week. But then I want to talk about Mercury because I know that a lot of people are getting hit so hard with this retrograde. And at least this week, we should get a little relief from it, all right? Before I even get into all of the planetary stuff, I do want to say, in addition, we've got a new moon in Cancer, and I'm going to be talking about the Mercury Cazimi in Cancer. We've got a new moon in Cancer on July 14th. So that means 2 days after the Cazimi, we have this new moon, new beginnings. It just really strengthens that theme of kind of a reset and a new starting point this week. Okay, so I thought it was important to mention that. So the thing we're going to actually be talking about is exact on the 12th, which is the Sun in Cancer forming a conjunction with Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Y'all, that's a Cazimi. And a Cazimi is a very good thing, especially during this particular Mercury retrograde. Okay, then on July 13th, we've got Venus in Virgo squaring Uranus in Gemini. You know, this is interesting. This is, I think, going to be about having to struggle, I don't know if that's the right word, but navigate. That's going to take some tension. Something Venus related, love, money, beauty, comfort, all of those things. And that rule breaker Uranus, right? You may be getting some unexpected information in one of those areas, one of those Venus-y kinds of areas. And if that's the case, and I think that's what it's going to be for most of us, where unexpected information comes in. And it may take some navigating. I don't ultimately think it's going to be bad, but it may take some navigation. Then on the 17th, we've got this very interesting Uranus in Gemini trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. The reason I'm not talking about this one, because it certainly is big. I think this is going to be felt much more on the world stage than it is in our personal lives. These planets, when they're interacting like that, might we be feeling some sort of rebel, I'm going to stand in my power, I'm going to break the rules, I'm going to be my authentic self? We might. Yeah, definitely we might. But I think much more likely that's going to be a world event kind of thing. So let's just jump right into it. I am going to do the sign by sign, but before I get there, I'll give you a little bit of background, and I am going to try to keep this episode a little shorter than it's been going, just because I know right now everybody's doing a lot with the whole summer vacation and all of that. So I'm going to try to keep it shorter. When we get to the sign by sign, let me remind you to listen for your rising sign. That's who you are. That's going to be the most accurate. If you don't know your rising sign, listen to your sun sign. If you're born during the day, listen to your moon sign if you're born at night. And for the most comprehensive sense of how this energy is going to play out for you, listen to all three. All right, let's get into this. So what's a Cazimi? That is just the conjunction of a planet with the sun. That's what it is. But it's a very special kind of conjunction because they say that the other planet, in this case Mercury, retrograding Mercury, is seated in the heart of the sun or seated in the chariot of the sun. You'll hear people talk about it in those kinds of ways. It's a really special place because, of course, one, we can't see the planet that's with the sun because the sun is too bright. So when a planet is very, very close, it's invisible. So in some ways, there's always, in my opinion, not every astrologer agrees with this, but in my opinion, when we have a Cazimi, there's always a little bit of intuition or inner knowing that is required to really, really make the best of it. Because even though a Cazimi is very, very positive, that other planet, Mercury, is still not visible. However, he's in the heart of the sun, and the sun is like the supercharger, right? It's like the mega battery for everything. And so what we think of is that the issues of Mercury that are no longer suited, that we don't need anymore, that we've outgrown, those are getting burnt away. And all things Mercury, and what are those? Communication, social interaction, education, short distance travel, socializing. So all of those Mercury things, did I say socializing twice? Well, you get it. All the Mercury things are going to be renewed, the old stuff gone, and the new mercurial kinds of elements to our life will have a new vitality. Now, this is especially interesting when Mercury is retrograde. And I think it makes this Cazimi even especially important, all right? Because we're already rethinking, right? We're already in the re-word space of rethinking, redoing. Oh, the other thing Mercury is business dealings, technology, all of that stuff. So we're already in the rethinking, redoing, replanning, restructuring, all of those kinds of things going on. And from what I'm hearing and from what I'm experiencing myself, this has been a tough one, y'all, not going to lie. But while Mercury is with the sun, it's like we get some clarity. It's like for that moment, if we tune in this week, if we really grab this moment in the cosmos, in the time of the cosmos, we will get a new kind of clarity or understanding about where we're going. And especially during the retrograde, we'll get a clearer understanding and we'll get help. We'll get help from the sun about what we need to let go of, what in our thinking and how we communicate and how we make our money, all of that kind of stuff. We will get clarity on what we need to just say, yeah, bye-bye, this doesn't serve me anymore, right? Because the sun's going to be burning that away and really showing us what's left over. So this is a time of, first off, enlightenment, the word light, right? Enlightenment about the changes we need to make and what needs to go. But more than that, it's a kind of clarity on all the Mercury things about what lies ahead. It's inspired thoughts, inspired ideas, plans, ways to make money, all of that kind of stuff. We will be inspired. And it's like a moment of enlightenment. So it's really, really good. And I just say, I do feel like sometimes we don't see it all the way until Mercury becomes visible again, so after the retrograde and all of that stuff. But if you listen to the inner voice, you'll get those insights and know where you're going. So look for inspiration this week and look for clarity about what you need to let go of. All right? All right, let's get into the sign by sign. So Aries, let's start with you. This is happening in the 4th house of home and family. Look for inspiration in that area. Mercury in all of the kind of people houses, 4th house of home and family, 7th house of primary partner, 10th house of career people, 11th house of our friends and our tribe. This is going to have a lot to do with how we communicate in those areas, okay, and how we socialize as well. So for you, Aries, this is happening in your 4th house. So I would look for a kind of insight to come about family dynamics, family relationships, things that need to be said, things that, I think that's going to be it for you. Things that need to be said to family members, and maybe some clarity in how to approach those topics and how to say those things. Does that make sense? All right. Taurus, for you, this is in your 3rd house of communication. So you know what this is going to be about? This is going to be clarity and insights and inspiration around all things communication. It could have to do with communication with siblings, could have to do with communication and community members, but all of you writers, educators, all of you people, I think you're going to be getting some real breakthroughs in what message you want to put out into the world. This is the message I want to bring forward. Now, we're still going to go through that retrograde phase, for a while longer. So it's going to be refining things and all of that, but it's going to be refining after you've had this moment of insight. I love it. I love that a lot. Gemini, this is happening in the 2nd house of money, and Mercury rules the things we do in the marketplace. So this is going to have something to do with how you make your money. Maybe you now understand how you want to launch your marketing campaign for your business. You may now see what kind of contract you want to renegotiate with your boss or with clients or whatever. But this is just very much about insights around finances, money, all of that kind of thing. I think you're going to be renegotiating some contracts, but now you know what you want it to say, if that makes sense. Could also have to do with marketing campaigns too. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Yours is just pretty straightforward. Okay, Cancer, this is happening in your 1st house of self. So this is getting some clarity on speaking your truth. What is your message? How do you want to present yourself in the world? That's what this is. This is really about getting clear on this is me. This is the real authentic me that I am going to bring forward. Here's how I want to speak. Here's how I want to be. This is really about self-realization. Does that make sense? Ooh, I love that. All right, Leo, this is happening in your 12th house of working behind the scenes, solitude, retreat, sleep. So this could have a lot to do with projects that you've been thinking maybe you want to start, but they're not ready to launch. It's really time to be working on the planning and all of that stuff that you do pre-launch. And you may finally go, aha, that light bulb moment may finally go off. The other thing that could happen with this Cazimi is you may have real breakthroughs in mental health issues, things you've been in therapy, dealing with, stuff like that. But I'm really thinking for a lot of people, this is going to have to do with breakthroughs, realizations, light bulb moments about those behind the scenes projects you've been working on or wanting to work on. All right. Virgo, this is happening in your 11th house of your tribe, your friends, group associations, right? So this is really kind of beautiful. This is about new thinking around your tribe, your group identity. It may be some kind of enlightenment moment about just kind of how you want to communicate with your people. You might get a new clarity on things you want to say, how you want to say them. But it's just the other thing is it's a really social energy in the middle of this Mercury retrograde where you may be like, hey, let's have a Mercury retrograde party or something. You may just find that you really have the light shining on wanting to share what you're going through and whatever's coming up for you around this time with your friends, with your people. So it's a really nice time. It's a time of really, going through it together. There's that sense of it, really seeing also what groups you want to be a part of, getting real clarity on these are my people, these people over here, not so much. I've outgrown certain people. I've outgrown certain groups, and you may get clarity on that. You may have been thinking like you needed to do some tweaking, and now you know what that tweaking is. Okay, Libra, this is happening in your 10th house. This is enlightenment, clarity, all of that stuff around whatever's going on at work. You may now know what you want to say to your boss, supervisor, whatever. You may now know, I want to renegotiate my contract because I want to work more in this other capacity or whatever it is, right? So this is some enlightenment and some clarity coming around your job, your career. This could also really be shining the light on changes you want to make. All right, because Mercury brings change. And at the same time this is happening, we're getting very close to a new moon. So it may be time to put in your notice. You might be getting clarity that what you need to communicate is that you're done. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, for Scorpio, this is happening in your 9th house of foreign travel, spirituality, and higher education. And of course, what's interesting is Mercury has to do with traveling and education. So usually I read things going on in the 9th as having to do with spirituality, and it certainly could. This could totally be about new ideas, new way you want to express your spiritual beliefs. You may want to write about your spirituality, teach classes on some woo-woo, something or another that you do. For sure, it could be that. But you may also be deciding that you want to go back for additional training in something, or want to spend more time traveling, or writing, or podcasting, or whatever about any of those things, because this is also the house of publishing, right? So you may be getting clarity, insight, breakthroughs this week on any of those issues. It's a really packed house. And Mercury has to do with all of that stuff. Mercury's the writer. So you may really be seeing clearly your writing project, or you may be seeing clearly how you want to market that book that you published or whatever. But Mercury's travel, Mercury's education. So it could show up a lot of different ways depending on how this is hitting your chart. All of them good, all about insights and breakthroughs. But this time I'm not leaning quite so heavily on the spirituality angle with 9th house. All right. So Sagittarius, this is happening in your 8th house of joint finances. That's credit, taxes, investments, investors, the money you pool with your partner or whatever. That's the main thing going on here. And of course, Mercury is about what we do in the marketplace. Okay. So I think really getting some real insights, some like downloads, especially in the 8th house, which can be kind of witchy and weird. I would expect some downloads on how you need to revamp your finances. What are you investing in? How are you reaching out, searching for investors? Do you have a GoFundMe you need to do for a project? All of that kind of stuff. But I would expect downloads this week around money issues. Also, given that Mercury's retrograde, it could also be about real clarity on how to get out of debt. Make sense? All right. For Capricorn, this is in your 7th house of primary partnership. So this is pretty straightforward. Again, remember, this is one of those houses where we're talking about communication with a person, your partner. So I think you're going to just get really clear this week on what you want to say, how you want to say it. Yeah. Just get really clear on those messages that need to be shared with your partner. The other thing it could be is new ideas about how you want to socialize together. Have you been going out too much? Not enough? You may have some ideas about, you know what? Let's spend more time with friends, with people. Right? And you'll need to communicate that, won't you? So there's something about engaging in a real, authentic conversation with your partner. I like it. I know that can sound heavy sometimes, but this is not that. This is authenticity, but there'll be a clarity, and I don't see anything bad in all of this, right? So I know sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to be talking to my partner, something bad going on. No, it's not that. All right, Aquarius, this is happening in your 6th house of day-to-day work routines, that kind of thing. Also physical health. So gaining clarity and insights around any of those topics, right? You may be really understanding how you want to work on a day-to-day basis, where you want to work, what kinds of technology and how you want it set up. Mercury has a lot to do with tech. And so it really could be like, you're like, I can't do this anymore. For me to be able to do what I need to do, I need that new computer or that new mic or that new this or that. That could absolutely be happening, where you finally kind of get it. I know the environment. I know how I need to set things up to be comfortable and productive in my daily work. But this can also be insights around health. And I would be looking at especially insights around anything having to do with the stomach, diet. Cancer is those kinds of things, right? Stomach, diet, maybe female reproductive stuff, but also with Mercury involved, I would be looking at nervous system. But remember, this is not a bad thing. This is good. So you would be getting breakthroughs and insights into how to improve your health, especially focusing on those body systems and areas. All right. Okay. And Pisces, this is happening. This is brilliant. I love this, Pisces. This is happening in your 5th house of creativity. And that's what it is. This is insights, breakthroughs around your creative work. And if you aren't an artist or a writer, any of those things, I'm talking about people who want to live more creatively. You're going to be getting those downloads, those insights, those intuitions about how to do that. If you are an artist, especially a writer, or an actor even who uses words, those kinds of art forms. This is going to be major creative breakthrough. The sun is creative energy, it's fame, it's all of that. And Mercury is writing, speaking, all of that kind of language-centered stuff. So I would really be looking for creative breakthroughs. The other thing that this could be about, because remember, Mercury is very social, and this is in the house of leisure activities. So you may be finding that you're really getting clarity on how you want to just have more fun and what that would look like for you. Okay. But for most people, I think this is going to have to do with creativity. So I know this one wasn't as complex as some of the others have been. And it's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to get a breakthrough in that house. Right. So I hope this wasn't too simplistic. I think it's a really important cosmic energy. And I hope this helped you see kind of where the breakthroughs may be coming into your life. And thank you all for making it to the end of all of this. I would love it if you would leave me a 5-star rating, share the podcast, put the podcast, link it to your social media, all of that kind of stuff. I would be super, super grateful. And either way, I'm just grateful for you. And until next week, go out and seize the energies of the stars. This is my wish for you always. All right, bye.